Hello all, this is week 4 for dance costume construction in quarantine. I hope everyone is still doing well and happy Easter as I record this. So for this week, we will be doing hand stitching for our circle skirt. And to do that, we basically just have 3 steps. The first step is stitching our center back seam, and we'll be doing that by matching our stitch lines and sewing it with a hand back stitch. Step 2 is to do a stay stitch on our waistline stitch line by way of a hand running stitch. The last step, a third step, will be applying our waistband, which is our twill tape, with a whip stitch. Okay, so yeah, how do we do this? Okay, I'll give you some details. That might help a little bit. Okay, so we'll do this. So you cut out your 2 pieces of fabric last week. So we have 2 pieces that are mirrored images, right? Okay, so we're going to take those 2 pieces and we're going to lay them so that the pretty sides are facing each other. They're going to be kissing. They will be looking towards each other. And then the ugly side slash the side that you did your pattern on, the wrong side, will be up so you can see it there. If I flip the whole thing over, I can see it here. Okay, so my right sides are together, my wrong sides are outside. And what we're going to do first is we're going to match our center back lines. Okay, our center back stitch lines. Yes, take your pins, those pins that I gave you in your box. And the first thing I'm going to do is start at the corner of my center back seam. And I am going to stab it through my corner until it gets to the opposite side, and if I need to move it, I'm going to move it and pin it upwards. And you're going to say right now, I can't see what you're doing. Okay, I could totally understand that. All right, so this is what I'm doing. Okay, so I have pinned it so that the pin goes straight up, and there you go, and into, whoa, sorry. Technical issues here. There we go. And up into the fabric. So it's going to go up towards the waistband. Okay. And on this side here, I'll pin it for a second. So that the pin does that all the way through. Where are you? There you are. Okay, see the pin? And it goes all the way through on this corner. Okay, and I'm going to pin up. And then I'm going to continue doing that all the way down this stitch line. I'm going to stab through. And if it doesn't quite match up, I can move this second piece around so that it does match. And I'm through that stitch line. And then I will pin up. Where are you? There you are. Like that. I'm going to do that all the way down the skirt. I'm going to stab in and pin up so that it does that. And I'll continue that all the way down the skirt. Okay, and then after I've got it all pinned, then I'm going to come back and do that back stitch. Remember what the back stitch is? Oh, remember? Let's see, where is it? Sam left me his sample. Okay, so remember these? So we have our back stitch here. That's the one where we kind of did the wave. So you're stitching this way and it comes back and it stitches that way, and each stitch comes back and touches each other. Okay, so that's what we're going to use now, is that back stitch. That's this one right here, the back stitch. Okay, so I'm going to come back and do a little bit further away. Okay, So it'll start and it'll look a little bit like that. And now granted, I've used a black thread so you can see it a little bit better to get it started. But maybe do about a 1/2 inch, 3/8 to a 1/2 inch stitch line. So I'm going to pull it up and I go back to my original stitch and then I half it and pull it through. And I go back to my original stitch and then I split the difference between where I came up before and I pull it through. And I'm going to do that up. When I get to a pin, I can pin it, pull it out, and hold the fabric in place. I'm going to stab it and stitch it. I'm going to put it on the table so it's a little faster for me to get this done. Whoops, went off the line a little bit there, but that's okay. Okay, so I've got this. Okay, so it starts to do that, and I'm going to continue it all the way up to that corner. Stab it, stitch it through, stab it, pull out the pin when you need to. Yeah, don't let it bunch up. Pull it back if it does. Stab it. Okay, we're going to get this all the way up to the very end. And now I do need to go into that seam allowance. Don't stop at your waistline seam. Continue to the very edge of your fabric. Go all the way up here when you're stitching. All right, stay flat. All right, so I'm going to dive through. Okay, so it does that. And I'm going to dive through to the other side from where I was stitching. Granted, there's not really a wrong side. And I'm going to, at this point, and I am going to knot this off. Okay, I got my scissors. Put this back over here so I don't lose it. And my next step will be to press this open and flat. So I'm going to take this over to the iron. Now, some of you may not have irons at home. So if you just want to finger press this, you certainly can. Just encourage it to lay down flat as best you can. If you've got an iron, just go ahead and run it up the center so that it is laying open and flat. Okay, lay open and flat, please. There you go. Oops, I don't know what that was. Oh no, okay. Okay, so we've got the center back seam done. Okay, so that's step number 1. That's good. It's sewn together. Okay, now my next step is to do a stay stitch around the waistline, or on that waistline stitch line. And what that does is that it holds the shape of that waistline. So our next step after this is to apply the waistband, and it's often very easy to stretch this area so that then your waistline does not fit your body anymore. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to do what's called a stay stitch. So basically it stays the same measurement, and it's going to be a running stitch. And the running stitch will be like that. I probably did about a 1/2 inch, it might be a little bigger, 5/8 of a stitch in and out, so that it will hold its shape. And you do want to go the full length. So I'm going to start over at one end, and I'm just going to weave it in and out like we did in class, and pull it so that I have just an in and out stitch at our waistline. Okay, make sure it is flat. Okay, so this is going to go all the way across, and we do want to make sure our center back seam allowances stay open and flat. So when you get to the stay stitch over them, make sure they stay there and don't try and get all folded up and funky on you. You want them to behave themselves and stay flat. So I'm almost over there. So I'm going to run right over the top of that center back, and they're going to stay sewn down flat like that. Okay, you behave yourself. Okay. Now, the magic of video. Somebody already did the rest of this, so I'm just going to do another little knot here and but you'll continue all the way to the end of the skirt. So unless you have to do this because you didn't leave enough thread, that's fine. That happens. That's a thing. Okay, so we have this stay stitch now. So we have that stitch line all the way along our waistline stitch line to hold it in shape. We have a stay stitch. Okay, step 2 is done.